Welcome to my channel, The Golden Stitch. My name is Alejandra and I'm a Mexican living in Scotland. And today is my very first knitting podcast. So we're gonna follow the usual knitting podcast format. First, I'm gonna talk about my finished objects, then about my whips, and then finally some acquisitions. So this is my very first knitting podcast. So technically, everything I've knitted so far is a finished object. But I only started knitting back in October last year after going to a yarn festival. I decided to pick up my needles and I haven't stopped ever since. But I only started knitting some accessories, so I'm gonna show you what I have finished so far. So the very first project I did, as many of you out there, was a Sophie Scarf. And this was knitted with the yarn that I got from the festival. It's from Pigment and Ply. And it's this beautiful variegated yarn that has these gorgeous autumn colors that are very much the type of colors I use regularly. So I have gotten a lot of use out of this scarf. It's honestly my most used project so far. I mean, I don't have a ton, but I have gotten a lot of use. I never knew I would get use out of a tiny scarf because I thought it would be just like kind of an accessory just for show, but honestly it's so practical and I find myself reaching for it constantly, and I've gotten a lot of compliments. I love burgundy, so it goes quite well with burgundy, and I also usually use lots of brown, chocolate brown, maroon colors. So yeah, it's a perfect accessory for it. I usually do like the double, mic's there, the double loop, and then either I tie it like usually people do, I've seen online, like that, or what I also do is I put the loops through the scarf like that, and I wear it kind of like a little tie situation here. And honestly, I really love it. The yarn is like a superwash merino, and I believe it has some nylon combination. It's really soft and it keeps me really warm. For the size of it, I'm impressed how warm it keeps me. So I'm really happy with it, and I see myself knitting more Sophie scarves in the future because it's just a very versatile accessory, and I love having it with like interesting colors. I would like to do a solid color with maybe like a pop of color. It will be really nice. So yeah, I'm really happy with it. I actually didn't get the pattern for it because I got the pattern for the Sophie Hood, which I'm gonna talk about it next. So I just kind of follow the same pattern for it, and I done increases until I achieved the wanted length, and then I started doing the decreases. I think the decrease rate was also slightly different, and I cast it on less stitches than for the hood. But yeah, I pretty much just try to follow that pattern but for doing a scarf, and it worked pretty well, so I'm really happy with it. My next finished object was from the same yarn actually, and it's this Brioche Headband. I found a tutorial on a YouTube video. It's free. I can link it below in the description. And honestly, this is another accessory that I have used a lot. It's really practical. Again, it goes with all the colors. I kind of use it as a matching set. I actually knitted another one of these, but in white, for my sister. And I don't know how much use she will get out of it because she lives in Spain and it's not as cold as here in Scotland. But hopefully she'll get good use of it. With my curly hair, sometimes it's hard to wear hats. I actually really struggle to find a good hat that doesn't squeeze my hair too much. I have like one good hat that I constantly use, but whenever I don't want to mess up my hair too much, this is perfect. So I can see myself also knitting more headbands. I don't know if in this pattern, or I will try some different ones, but yeah, I would recommend this pattern. It's really nice. And oh, and I also really enjoy the brioche stitch. I would like to make a full cardigan on it, but it really takes forever. So I'm not gonna set up myself for that ambitious project until I gain a little bit more confidence and I practice more my different stitches and techniques with other sweaters and large objects. And my next finished object was the Sophie Hood. I actually used an acrylic that I had in stash from my crochet years, because even though I only started knitting since October last year, I've been crocheting for 5 years, and I had accumulated a big stash of mostly acrylic and cotton. I decided to use some of the acrylic I had in hand. Honestly, lately, since I started knitting, I've been gravitating more towards natural fibers. I mean, cotton is a natural fiber, but more towards like wool, animal fibers. And I'm not super happy with my yarn choice, but I already bought the acrylic and I have to find good use for it. So I decided to use it for my hood. And even though I'm happy on how this pattern turned out, I haven't got a lot of use out of it, and I don't know if I'm gonna keep it, because I discovered that I'm not really a hood person. I get really cold in my forehead, maybe because I live in Scotland and it's quite windy here. I actually use either a proper hat or a headband, because I prefer to have my ears and my forehead warm. It's like the spots that get the most cold. I don't know why. For me, but I realized I've used these once and I came back with a headache from just like a brain freeze, just from the cold wind. So maybe I can find a use for it in the spring once it starts getting a little bit warmer, or I can combine it with like a headband or like a beanie below the hood, and then that way I can find a way to have a good use out of it. If not, I'm probably gonna end up donating it or giving it to a friend that can have a better use for it. I really enjoyed the pattern. I would recommend it, but for me, I don't see myself knitting another one unless I find a way to make use of this one. And then next, in my finished objects, I have another small scarf that I did following another tutorial. This one has a really fun ribbon and alternated with like garter stitch. This one I haven't gotten as much use of it because it turned out very short. I only used one skein and it's quite short. I also don't think gray is a great color on me, so I don't really reach out for this one that much. But maybe I'll start using it in my rotation once I find other colors to combine it with. And then next, I decided to treat myself to some cashmere, and I bought a few balls to make accessories because I didn't want to spend a fortune for a sweater's quantity. And I knitted the ELISE Scarf, which is this beautiful lace pattern. It's my first time trying lace and I really enjoyed it. I actually did some of this project during my trip to France and Switzerland. We went to some Christmas markets and I have good memories of it. Doing some knitting on the train and on the plane, and I really enjoyed it. The pattern was a little bit trickier to follow, I remember, as a beginner. I don't remember if it has a graph or it's only written instructions. I have to double check. But the tricky part for me is that it didn't specify what salvage stitch to use. I also didn't know what a salvage stitch was. So I just kind of, because I've done the Sophie Hood and the Sophie Scarf, I did a similar I-cord edge for this one. I know some people have the different edging. I honestly don't know what was it meant to be used for, but it works pretty well. I'm pretty happy with the end result. I think it looks super pretty and it's so soft. The only thing is, because I only used one skein, I ended up not being able to finish the whole repeat. I think I've done 2 repeats less than the pattern calls for. So my scarf is quite short. So it doesn't serve the purpose of an actual scarf that much, but I still think it's so pretty. So the way I use this one is I usually tie it around my neck, and because I don't have enough length to do a knot, I use one of my rings, and I usually just like pass the ring through it, and it forms like a little bow here. And I think it looks really cute. So I still use it. I just don't think it serves like a purpose of warming up that much. It's more an aesthetic accessory, I think, at this point. I don't know if I will need another of these one. Maybe if I have more yarn to make a longer one, so I can actually wrap it around my neck. But so far I don't have any plans to knit one immediately. I finished another object that I don't have with me because it was a gift knit. I made an Oslo hat Christmas edition for my friend's baby, and it was so cute. I really love the result. I mean, since it's one of my first projects, it does look very hand knit. It's not the most perfect. There are some uneven stitches, but I think it looks so cute. I'll pop up a picture there so you can see it. And my friend was super happy with it, and the baby looks so cute. So I will definitely make that again next year, probably. And my last finished object is this cowl, which is from a collection Cityscape by Tori Yu. I have the whole collection, the 3 patterns, which is the hat, the mittens, and the cowl. And I really want to finish the 3 objects, but I had some issues that I will explain about with my ribbon. So I don't know if I will do them immediately. So this cowl is done flat, and then you seam the ends together, which really help my ribbon because it doesn't look too bad. After blocking, it looks pretty okay. But I'm not really good at ribbon. One of my stitches, well, you can actually see it a little bit on the flat, but not as much as you will see on my whips. Always like my second knit, which is before a purl, opens up a little bit too much, and I've seen a lot of videos on YouTube on how to fix that. I know why it's happening. I know it's because the yarn we use for pearls is actually a bit more than for knits, and then it kind of pulls the stitch and it opens it up. I've been trying to work different techniques to fix it, use combination knitting and other, like knit through the back loop, tighten up, but I'm still not getting my ribbon really good. And I've also found out that cashmere is not a very forgiving yarn for ribbon because it's so fluffy and kind of like loose. It shows the stitch definition very well, and it opens up the stitches for the ribbon a lot more than wool or other yarns. So I don't know if I will continue knitting the other whips that I have, or if maybe I will wait until I perfect my ribbon, or not perfect, but at least until I get it better, because I don't want to waste cashmere on projects that are not gonna look the way I wanted them to look. But I'm pretty happy with this cowl. I think it's really pretty. It's warm. The only thing I would say is I was hoping this will be closer to my neck. Maybe I can put it on to show you. You can see there's a little bit of a gap here that lets the wind flow, so it doesn't do a great job of keeping me warm, but I think it's so pretty and soft. Maybe for the spring it will be enough, or if I kind of like pull it up a bit like that, it just doesn't stay up. So yeah, I'm still yet to figure out how to make a good use out of these. It hasn't been as practical, if I'm totally honest, as the Sophie Scarf has. So that's it for my finish projects. As you can see, I've only knitted accessories so far, which have been my introduction to knitting. But this year I've been making it part of my goals to start knitting full garments. And if you haven't seen my previous video, I talk about my knitting goals for 2026. So you can go ahead and check it out if you're interested. And you're gonna see that some of my whips and my future plans are very oriented towards what I established in that video. So yeah, let's move on to my whips. The first one I have is the Lulu Sleepover by PetiteKnit. I've only done the back panel so far, finished with the armhole shaping, and I just have to finish up knitting a few stockinette stitches to achieve the length. And I believe next is like picking up stitches for the front. I'm really enjoying this project. I love this color. I'm using let me see, I'm using the Hobby Friends Extra Fine Merino combined with Friends Kit Silk by Hobby as well. So it's a perfect match in the color maroon. As you can see, I love burgundy colors. I love maroons. So I'm also trying to not do everything in those colors, but I can't help myself and gravitate towards these because I think they're really gorgeous. So one thing that has been challenging is to achieve gauge. I actually had to use slightly smaller needles, 3.75 instead of the 4mm needles that were called for in the pattern, which has been a very lengthy progress. And as a beginner, this can be a little bit discouraging. And also the color of yarn that I chose, because it's dark, is a little bit harder to see your stitches. So because of that, I also decided to put this a little bit on hold, even though I still want to make progress on it. But I wanted to knit a full sweater on a slightly larger gauge so that I could see the progress move a little bit faster and get more encouragement as my first project. So this one is a little bit on the back of the project. It's not my main whip at the moment, but I still would like to finish these soon. So first whip, the Lulu Sleepover by PetiteKnit. As for my next whip, this is actually my main whip. If you've seen my previous video, you've seen that I chose to knit the Stripe Hype sweater by Veronica Lindberg or Kutowakika as my first sweater, and I am so happy with the progress. I'm actually recording a project blog for these, documenting my experience knitting my first project and all the obstacles and kind of difficulties I've encountered. So far it's a very straightforward pattern. Obviously, because this is my first knit, I have experienced some challenges and difficulties, which you can see more if you're interested in my next video coming up. Once I finish the sweater, I plan to post that vlog, so stay tuned for it. So yeah, I have, as you can see, I have finished the body and I pick up the stitches for the first sleeve. So I won't talk about it too much because I will go over in detail in my project vlog. The only thing to mention is that I'm using the Sandnes Garn PetiteKnit wool, and this is 100% Norwegian wool, so it's a little bit rustic but I'm actually enjoying knitting with it. I think it's good as a beginner to use a little bit of a rustic yarn that has more grip rather than what I was using before. The merino wool with the kit silk is really slippery, so it can be more challenging for a beginner to work with the stitches. So this one I think is really great to work as for a beginner. And next I talk about the Cityscape Cowl and my free niche projects, and I mentioned that the whole collection comes with mittens and a hat. So those are my next two whips that I've been having issues with. So I actually finished one of the mittens and I'm pretty happy with the result. I mean, it does look uneven, my ribbon looks uneven, and you'll see like when I put on the mitten, you can see some of my stitches are opening up. So I actually tried to do the second one and I had a lot of issues. First, because I picked up stitches wrong to separate the thumb and the hand part for the right hand. I actually done another left hand, so when I finished I realized and I had to frog it all, and it was also significantly bigger than this one, so I'm having problems to keeping my gauge consistent. I've been trying different methods for small circumferences. I've done this in Magic Loop, and because I had some issues with it, I also bought like 9-inch, or I think it was 10 of the asymmetrical circular needles to try it out, and I think it was easier, but at the same time my stitches look more uneven. So I wasn't happy with the result, which is why I frogged the second mitten. And then I done another attempt at knitting it. And then when I weave in the ends, I somehow managed to cut one of the stitches within the palm, and then it ended up causing like a huge gap. I'll pop in a picture to show you. And I was so bummed because it was right after I finished it, and I know I could have spot fixed it, but I was so upset that I just unraveled the whole thing, and I decided to put this project on hold because I was like, maybe I'm not ready to move to such small fiddly circumferences yet. So that is why I'm probably keeping this on hold until I finish my other two whips, and then I can hopefully gain a little bit more confidence to work on small circumferences, and also perfect my ribbing so that it doesn't look so uneven. I have to figure out how to do that better, so I need to practice a bit more. And the same thing with the hat. So because the cowl was done in the flat, I actually found the ribbon looks a little bit better, but this one I'm not very happy on how like one of the stitches is opening up more than the others. So I think it's just a waste of cashmere, to be honest, because it's not looking the way I want it. So I'm probably gonna unravel these and then practice my ribbon more until I'm happy with it, and then I can actually use the cashmere for this hat. I think it'll look amazing, but I just have this vision and I want it to look a certain way, and I know I'm gonna be disappointed if I just keep going and not looking the way I want to. So yeah, these two whips are a little bit on the back burner for now until I practice more my techniques. And next, let's talk about yarn acquisitions. I have a lot of yarn and stash, so I'm not gonna go over everything I have so far because technically everything is a new acquisition since this is my first podcast. But I'm gonna focus on the yarn I've acquired more recently and the one that I'm most excited about. So yeah, let's talk about that. So first, my next project in the queue is the Salty Day sweater, also by Veronica Lindberg or Kutubakika. And I'm going to be using the Heavy Merino Wool by Knitting for Olive, and the color Rust. It's a gorgeous orange, like burnt orange, rusty color, and I just really love the way it looks. I saw another project listed on Ravelry using this color, and I really love the result. So this is why I decided to go with these. I already done a swatch for it, and I'm pretty happy on how it looks. So yeah, this is gonna be the next, once I finish my other 2 whips, it's gonna be the next project on my needles. I'm very excited because this project uses so many different techniques that are gonna be great for me to learn as a beginner. It has some ribbing, it has some lace patterns, and it has a little bit of cabling, I think only in 1 stripe. And there's a full video by Veronica Lindberg that I think is going to be very useful for me to follow along and learn lots of new techniques. So I'm really excited for these. And then next, you're going to see I went a little bit crazy on the Knitting for Olive winter sale, so a lot of it is from that sale. And next, I bought these 2 beautiful colors for my terracotta sweater. It's merino and the color marzipan and licorice. And I also bought the matching mohair for it. I've seen she has the sample knits in both the terracotta color and the black and kind of cream color. I really like both, to be honest. I couldn't decide which one, but the reason why I went for the black is because I'm already making a kind of terracotta-ish color sweater with the Salty Day sweater. So I was like, maybe I should change a little bit gears and go a different direction. And I really like the sample in cream and black. So I was like, yeah, let's try to do that one. So really excited to do that one. I know there's a little bit of color work on the flat, which is gonna be challenging for me as a beginner. So I don't know when I'm gonna cast this project, but I'm really excited for it when it happens. I know it has to happen because that sweater is the one that make me want to knit, because I was like, when I saw that sweater, I was like, one day I want to be able to make that sweater. And yeah, so it's in my plans for this year. I don't know when I'm gonna cast it on, but I have the yarn for it and I'm super excited. And then next, I also got some unmatched kind of contrasting colors of merino and silk mohair, because I love all the samples that Knitting for Olive does on Instagram of contrasting colors and how they create like a marling effect. And I really love the way it looks, and I love playing with combinations of colors. So I thought of buying two different colors that are kind of in the same family to see how the marling will work for that. But actually it was kind of a silly idea, because I bought the quantity for the Aria sweater, which is crochet, it's not knitting. And when I started to do the swatch for it, it just looked in a totally unexpected way, because crochet behaves really different to knitting. Crochet creates more of like a lace or like open stitches that don't really mesh or marl together. So it was a really bad idea to buy two unmatched colors for that specific pattern in mind. So I bought enough yarn for that, like having that sweater in mind. Usually crochet uses a little bit more yarn than knitting. So I believe I have like 7 balls of each color, or of each one. But yeah, I don't think I'm gonna be using them for that particular sweater, because as I said, I just didn't look the way it looked. But that being said, I decided to do a swatch and just plain stockinette to see how it looked. And I still like the marlin effect on knitting, to be honest. I think it looks really pretty. So I'm thinking maybe changing gears and using this yarn for the drizzle sweater pattern, which has some beautiful cables in the middle, and then that can help me achieve another goal I had from my previous video, which is work with cables or do an cable sweater. I think this looks good as an introduction for me to cables because it's only in the middle, and actually the sample is also using like a marlin effect, although it is using a cream base for the merino, and then the mohair is the one that is the darker color. I do think it works better that way. Now that I've seen the way it looks, next time if I want to try any marlin effect, I will go the same direction and try to pick the base as the lighter color and the mohair as the contrasting color, because I just think it looks better than the way I've done it. But I mean, I have the yarn and it looks pretty and it's so soft, so I think I'm gonna go for it. So that's so far the plan I have in mind, and we'll see if I change my mind next. Finally, oh no, I actually have two more. But the next yarn I have is a very special souvenir yarn I got during my trip to France and Switzerland. I believe this one I bought in Strasbourg, in Happy Wool. I think it was called like that, the shop I went to. I just wasn't planning to stop in a yarn shop, but I saw it and I couldn't help myself. So I went in and surprise, surprise, I picked another burgundy skein. But the reason I've done it is because it's a very interesting composition that I haven't seen before. This is 60% merino, 30% silk, and 10% mohair. It is so soft. It's really, really like super, super soft. And I think I'm gonna knit with these mini scarf. I don't know if a Sophie scarf, or maybe I'll try a different pattern this time. But I think I just want to keep these like really close to my neck, and it'll keep me nice and warm. The brand is called, I believe it's Fildar. It's like a French brand, but it's made in Italy. And the yarn is also called Fil Soie Merino. And the color is Granat. Yeah, Granat. So yeah, another burgundy color, but I love it. It's so pretty. And then finally, it's also a very special acquisition, which was a gift by my husband for Christmas. And it's a sweater's quantity of Cardiff Cashmere Classic. Can we just take a moment to appreciate this beauty? It's so pretty. I am so excited. So it's actually in the same color as I picked to do my Cityscape collection. It's the same red, yeah, as a cowl as this one. Probably he saw I like this color and he wanted to go with a safe bet. But I love red, so I'm pretty happy with that, and I know exactly what I'm gonna do with it because I've seen this sweater on Instagram, I believe. It's a Winnie sweater by Lily Kate, I believe her name is. And it's this gorgeous plain stockinette sweater in a V-neck with some lace details on the cuffs and the neck. I don't know if it also has one on the ribbon at the end, but it's this beautiful, beautiful, delicate piece that I think will be perfect for the yarn that I have. The recommended yarn is also Cardiff Cashmere Classic, so I think it's a perfect match. The only thing is the level that it calls for is more on the intermediate level. So again, I'm gonna see first, after finishing the other projects I have in mind, how confident I feel to cast on that project. If not, it's gonna have to be more towards the end of the year that I cast on that project, but I'm really excited to do it when it happens. And I believe that's it for today. So that's all I have to show you. And please, if you want to know more about my progress with the Stripe Hype sweater, keep posted for my next video, which is gonna be the vlog on it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.